Story of Hidden Stories Healed Now. I am so glad to have you join us today. Today we're going to be talking with a phenomenal guest, Courtney Cook. We are talking about adoption. And you know, there's a lot of components when we begin to think about adoption. You know, whether you're on the receiving end or the giving end, and the challenges and the journeys that go with it. And today I think you'll find this story to be very inspiring. And my hope is that it provides you hope and insights. Because that's how we move things forward. That's how we're able to have better lives. That's how we're able to succeed. So it is my honor and my pleasure to have you with us, Courtney.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you being here. So around adoption, would you like to share with our audience your story?
Oh, absolutely. So I always try to start from the beginning when I tell the story.
Yes.
I grew up in a household where my nickname was Ugly. Legitimately, my nickname was Ugly. And that did a lot of damage to my self-esteem, to my sense of worth. And so I grew up feeling unloved, unworthy. And so I went searching for love outside of my home. And that then turned into having sex because in my mind, sex equals love. And so I began having sex at a pretty young age, and my senior year of high school, I found myself pregnant. And I told the father. He was older, he was a few years older, and I truly believe the term ghosting was created for me. He changed his phone number, changed his pager number, because, you know, this was a while ago, and he moved. So poof, no father in the picture. Again, my household wasn't very welcoming or loving in my view. And so I hid the pregnancy until I couldn't hide it anymore. And during my pregnancy, I started going to an adoption agency to find out more about adoption because I didn't really know anything about it other than Lifetime movies where they snatch the baby and the baby's gone forever. But thankfully, my adoption caseworker was amazing, answered all my questions, and basically taught me what adoption actually is. And so that was the route that I chose, a semi-open adoption for my son.
Wow. Now, as a mother, that's very hard, you know, as those mother instincts. But I want to explore a little bit about your background of being at home because we know that's where it begins. First of all, let me apologize. No one on this earth that God created should ever be told that they're ugly. Because you are in the image that the Lord created you, and you are his child first. So let me help you understand. Don't you ever worry about whether you're beautiful or not. He made you in a beautiful spirit.
Thank you.
You are a beautiful woman, and you wouldn't be here if he didn't want you to be here. So let me start there, because that's really hard for me to hear that any child was put on this earth and made to feel as though they're not valued or appreciated. So in that household, were you with your mom and your dad?
No, it was just my mother. My father wanted nothing to do with me, which also contributed to the feeling of being unloved. And, you know, time heals all. I've finally come to the realization that my mother's a human with weaknesses, and she did the best she could. But yeah, it was a tough household. My mother was not demonstrative, so it was very lonely. No siblings. It was just my mother and I. So.
Oh, wow. So to be alone in a household as a child, being told that you're ugly every day, as we say, you know, a book doesn't come with parents on kids, and then searching for that. No wonder you needed to feel love. And I think it's important that you understand there's nothing wrong with wanting to be loved. We all need to be loved. We all need to be hugged. We all need to be touched. We all need to feel that value. So those emotions that you were going through are very normal. They're very normal emotions. And they are feelings that it's good that you now can recognize where it was, because I know that there's been a lot of growth that has come through that opportunity of doing that. I would love to understand a little bit more about your adoption experiences with your counselor. First of all, how did you begin to research this? And what made you decide that that was even an option? A lot of times, it's like, that's not even an option. I'm gonna have this baby and I'm gonna keep it. What was it in your mind? Those hidden things we don't talk about, the emotions that we feel. What made you decide to even go look at an adoption agency?
So Google didn't exist back then. So I actually just used the yellow pages to find an adoption agency near me that was on the bus line. I knew for me that I did not want to have an abortion. But I also knew that as a worthless being, because that's what I thought of myself at 17, as a worthless being, parenting this child isn't going to work. One, my child deserves parents that are worthy. And at 17, I didn't believe I was. And two, love doesn't buy diapers. I loved this being with all that I had. But as a high school student with a part-time job at a bowling alley, that's not really going to take care of the needs of the child. And so every moment after realizing I was pregnant, began thinking about what is best for this child. So for me, adoption was the only option. I didn't feel like I could parent or abort. So adoption was the only option for me. So yeah, yellow pages, bus line, took the bus, went, met with my caseworker. She spent hours talking to me and answering my questions, and I felt comfortable after that first visit to continue.
Well, we're going to take a station break, and when we come back, we're going to explore that a little further. We'll be right back.
Every story has a hidden element that is not often shared. Hidden Stories, Healed Now, with host Vicki Wright-Hamilton, seeks to share the hidden gems in real-life experiences. Our guests are ordinary people sharing their stories of overcoming insurmountable odds while providing hope and inspiration.
You know, the thing that can cause us the biggest pain of not sharing our experiences is being embarrassed. And I just want you to know, don't be embarrassed. Don't be concerned that the thing that you're facing, the challenge that you're going through, the impacts that you're having are something that no one else is having. See, embarrassment begins to weigh on us physically, mentally, and emotionally. And there are solutions out there. And that's the whole purpose of talking about these stories, is to provide solutions and hope. Remember, you're not alone. You don't have to be alone. There are other people that can help you. So reach out, touch someone, and get that help. Look for that person that can provide for you what you need. So another opportunity to get a solution is always tune in to Hidden Stories, Healed Now. Wow, what an inspiring story. And let me say to you, Courtney, you are so matured at 17. I'm not sure I would have thought at 17 to even think about what my options are. I think at 17 I would have been like, okay, I'm in a household, I'm ugly, I'm not gonna be a good parent, but I'm pregnant, I gotta have this baby, what am I gonna do? As opposed to thinking about the positive impacts and what that means. So I commend you again for thinking about what was best, knowing what you could handle and what you couldn't. So talk to me about that visit with the caseworker, and how did you feel comfortable? What was it about that caseworker that said, I can really share my story, I can really talk about how I feel?
She was wonderful. She never made me feel like, another question, another question. Like, she was just so patient with me and willing to explain. And even if I had to ask the same question over and over again, she was so patient and caring with me. With a semi-open adoption, basically, there's no exchange of my son's parents' names. I don't know where they live. I don't know their last names. However, there's still communication. So I was allowed to send letters, pictures, as many times as I wanted. And they were required to send letters and pictures once a year. And once I heard that, I was like, oh, so I actually get to see my child grow up. You know, it's not I hand this baby over and then nothing for the rest of his life. I get to see my child grow up. I get to see my child develop, but from afar. And so for me, once I realized that adoption is not a Lifetime movie, babies are not snatched, once I realized that there was a little bit of control, a little bit of interaction, that's when I knew I can do this. And then the cherry on top was the fact that I got to pick his parents, which made me feel so much better about the decision because I get to have a hand in the household that I envisioned for him. So that was...
Oh my gosh, so talk to me about that process and talk to me about the emotions you were feeling as you were going through that. What did you decide you wanted? How did you put that together to say, oh my gosh, this would be ideal parents for my child?
So I thought about, you know, what household would I have wanted when I was growing up? What household do I desire for my child? I knew I wanted parents that were worthy, number one. I wanted them to be smart. I wanted them to be fun. I wanted them to be adventurous. And I wanted them to want my child. You know, I wanted them to have that desire to be parents because I felt like my mother didn't want to parent me. So I wanted these parents to want to be parents. And so what the agency does is they give me notebooks of different families. And in the notebooks, the families get to pick whatever they want in there. It could be letters, pictures, tours of their home. It could be whatever. So I'm going through the books and I'm like, and then I get to this one notebook, and I probably should not admit this. I had a thing with teddy bears. Stuffed animals were my thing in high school. And I opened the notebook, and there is a letter to the potential birth mom, and the stationery had teddy bears all around the edges. And then I read about them. There were pictures of them at Disney World. They were smart. And I was just like, this is them. It felt right. Yeah.
Wow, wow. So when they give you these notebooks and you have this opportunity and you choose them, at that point that they contact the family to let them know that they have a child for them?
So yes, back 20 years ago, the state of Georgia has a 10-day period where the birth mom can change her mind. So they were notified that there is a birth mom that has chosen them. Get prepared. And after we left the hospital, my son was picked up by the caseworker and went to the temporary foster home for those 10 days while I, had to change my mind. After those 10 days, after all the paperwork was signed, then they had their son, our son.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a beautiful story. Wow. Do you still get information?
Yes.
Oh, that's such a beautiful story.
It's wonderful. I, to this day, do not regret his parents. They are amazing, beautiful souls. His mother and I speak on social media. We text, we email. He has not yet made the decision that he wants to see me, which is fine. It's his choice. I made a choice for him 20 years ago. he gets to make a choice about his life. But yeah, his family's beautiful. He's in college. He's tall and beautiful and smart, and he's amazing. And I am grateful every day of the choice that I made.
Wow, what an inspiring story. We're going to take a station break in a moment, and when we come back, I want to see if our audience has a question for you. But in addition, I want to talk about the part that's really hidden. That moment of being in the hospital and knowing that you've given birth, and how did you cope and deal with those emotions, even though you knew you were making the right decision. We're going to take a station break, and we'll be right back.
Every story has a hidden element that is not often shared. Hidden Stories, Healed Now, with host Vicki Wright-Hamilton, seeks to share the hidden gems in real-life experiences. Our guests are ordinary people sharing their stories of overcoming insurmountable odds while providing hope and inspiration.
You know, the thing that can cause us the biggest pain of not sharing our experiences is being embarrassed. And I just want you to know, don't be embarrassed. Don't be concerned that the thing that you're facing, the challenge that you're going through, the impacts that you're having are something that no one else is having. See, embarrassment begins to weigh on us physically, mentally, and emotionally. And there are solutions out there. And that's the whole purpose of talking about these stories, is to provide solutions and hope. Remember, you're not alone. You don't have to be alone. There are other people that can help you. So reach out, touch someone, and get that help. Look for that person that can provide for you what you need. So, another opportunity to get a solution is always tune in to Hidden Stories, Healed Now. Courtney, you have enamored my heart. And to see the joy in your face, to know that you made the right decision. But this has been many years later, and you've been able to build somewhat of a relationship with that family, with the mother. And I'm so thankful that she allows you to be on social media and to see that. But let's talk about the last thing that's the hardest emotional time, because I want my audience to understand and get some tips on how do you deal. You're giving birth, you've given birth to the baby. Did you hold the baby? Did you not? What emotions were you going through? And then after doing those 10 days, how did you emotionally deal with the decision that you made?
My goodness. So baby's born. I was a little delirious. No medication. He was born 25 minutes after I got to the hospital. And the medical team said, breastfeeding or bottle? And in my delirium, I said, neither. He's being adopted. And they were just like, what? Oh my gosh. Do you want to hold him? Do you want him in your room? And I'm like, absolutely. This is literally the only time I'm going to have with my child. So for the 2 days that we were, preparing to leave, he was in my room. I was scared to hold him, but I knew that I would regret it if I didn't. So I have photos in an old photo album of me holding my son, and I talked to him, I cried with him. I just bonded as much as I possibly could because I had 2 days. As far as the 10-day period, so I gave birth on a Tuesday, and we left the hospital on a Thursday, and Sunday I moved in for my freshman year of college. So I did not have the mental fortitude to grieve. I pushed everything back, and I focused on, okay, where's your 8 a.m. class? What books do you need to get? Who's your new roommate? I had to compartmentalize and push every emotion to the back so I could focus on the next step. Thankfully, my college tuition included the health center, which had a therapist. So the second semester of my freshman year, I was able to get into therapy and start the actual grieving process. Because although my son still exists, it's still a loss. So I still had to grieve. I still had to be angry. I still had to be sad. I still had to go through all those things. So it took time. I mean, I'm 20 years in, and there are still days where I'm emotional about it. And then there are still days where I have joy and awe and amazement at this child that is here, that is a man. So it's definitely been an emotional journey.
Well, I wouldn't expect anything less for someone who was so insightful, someone who is thinking about what's the betterment for my child. And the fact that, you made the hardest decision any woman ever has to make, but you did it with the right intentions. And nobody knows what the future holds. We don't know what's going to happen. But what I will say to you is that you did what that child needed at that moment. And it's going to be one of those things that you will always remember. You will never forget. But the joy in your heart from watching this man grow up and do the things that he's doing. And to know you went on to college. You went to college. You graduated. That is just phenomenal. I mean, I tell you, your story has really touched me. So we're going to take a moment and see if we have a question from the audience.
Hi, Courtney.
Hi.
I sat in the audience and I was trying to fight back tears. You're so beautiful. And your speech and the way you delivered the story about your son was very moving. So, but I do have a question for you. And that question is because you were 17 at the time, is there, or did you know whether there was a minimum or a maximum age in which you should have involved your mom, or you didn't involve your mom, or how was she engaged at all in that process?
So I honestly don't know if there is an age limit. I was 17 when I got pregnant, but the adoption went through after I was 18. One of the reasons that I hid my pregnancy is because I knew that I would be taken to an abortion clinic. And so I hid it until I couldn't, about 6.5 months. And at that point, it was too late. So to answer your question, I'm not sure, but I was 18 when everything legal happened.
Okay. Well, we are so proud of you, but I didn't take a moment to introduce myself. My name is Darlene Quincy, and actually I took a business that's called Legal Shield, and actually I'm a member as well. And Legal Shield provides like an affordable way to have access to attorneys. And so one of the benefits is an uncontested adoption. How great is that? And so, for those that may be looking for those types of services, that's what Legal Shield provides. And so thank you for being here today. So beautiful, such a great story.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for your question. And, I will tell you that I want you to go home. I need you to do something for me.
Okay.
I need you to go look in that mirror and say, I am one beautiful black woman. There is nothing I can't do.
Yes.
And I am going to make sure that I provide the space for myself to continue enjoying life, to continue to be the wonderful woman that I am. And I will not hold my head down for anyone.
Yes. Yes.
That's what I
ma'am.
want you to do for me.
Absolutely.
Such a phenomenal story. You are such an inspiration. And I know you've given our audience something to hold on to. So will you all please join me in thanking Courtney Cook for being with us today. I hope you have enjoyed this episode, and I hope that you have learned something today. I know I have. And for those that may have to make those hard decisions, know that it's okay and that you will get through it. And the things that Courtney has done is only a demonstration of hope. and ability to work through challenges. Thank you so much for joining us today on this episode, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Remember, for every hidden story that's healed now is a story that allows you to have freedom. Thank you.